Welcome to the Cherie Rickard Show. I'm Cherie, your sister in Christ and warrior friend, here to help you heal, rebuild, rise, and step boldly into the life that God has created for you. Let's go. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Cherie Rickard Show. I have a special treat for you today. I have the one and only Karen Kingsbury, #1 New York Times best-selling novelist and America's favorite inspirational storyteller with more than 25 million copies of her award-winning books in print. Her last dozen titles have topped bestseller list. Karen's new film company called Karen Kingsbury Production has a new movie coming out called The Christmas Ring, which is coming to a theater near you this weekend, along with her latest novel, The Christmas Ring, that just launched October 21st. Well, hello, Karen. How are you?
Hello there. I'm so good. Good to be with you today.
Good. We were just talking before. We'll tell everybody in the audience that can be a little envious, like my Bible study group was that didn't get to go to your retreat. It was incredible. And if you ever do that again, which I'm sure you probably will, do that retreat again, the combination of where it was in Franklin, Tennessee, and we'll talk about kind of the background of that for your new movie that's coming out, was just wonderful. The weather, you picked a perfect time. It was almost after hurricane season, except for we just got this quick surprise here that went across Jamaica, which was sad and unfortunate, but it was a really, really good timing, and it was a beautiful retreat. And one thing I will tell you that I did not know about you, which I was even more excited to learn, is that you are so faith-filled like myself.
It's everything.
It's everything. And to hear you talk, you just have a really, of course, you're an exceptional writer, obviously, but to hear you talk, it was a highlight. I want you to tell me just a little bit and tell everyone that's listening. We're going to talk about the new book, but I want to talk about the inspiration that you have, because you have been called an inspirational storyteller. So tell me where that came from.
You know, I love reading things that move me. So I don't enjoy reading things that keep me at, a 5. Like, sort of a problem, kind of a good ending. What I just really need to hit those ones, the really low lows, and then the high highs to keep interested. I think that's always how I've been. So as a reader, I went through and got my journalism degree as my education, wrote for the LA Times for a few years, and then started writing books. My first 4 books were true crime, and they were obviously very sad and very, you had a hopeless ending that you couldn't fix or change.
Right.
The Lord always put some sort of positive, hopeful angle to it. But then I started writing this inspirational fiction, and it was so important to me that it was real. I think that's really the main thing, Cherie, is that I just, I couldn't write something that was just light. Like if Christian fiction or inspirational fiction is just light fiction, I wasn't interested in reading it or writing it. If it can be deeper, that's where I kind of began this journey more than 20 years ago, is if I could write a story that had the physical, intellectual, and emotional elements, but that had the spiritual. So whether that character was running away from God toward him, like it's a part of the story. It's not patched on, it's actually a real part of the story. So for me, I'm a detective of the emotions. Evangelist kind of disguised as an author and filmmaker now. So it's important to me to be looking, what moves me? What is the thing that grabs my heart? And the Lord will show me, and I'll see something or hear something. It'll trigger an emotional response. And then God puts a movie in my head that is like so visual that when I'm sitting down to write the book, I can write very quickly, a couple weeks to do a book. And that is, the whole time I feel like I'm reading it. I don't feel like I'm making it up. I think that's the thing that I go, it's only God. Like he gets all the credit. And it's why I had to go into filmmaking, because I wanted to see on the screen what God put in my head to start with.
Right. I love that, because many of your characters obviously go through a lot of adversity, but they continue to find hope in their faith. So it's almost like a learning lesson. So it's a story of learning, like a visual learning of how can I apply this, or this applies to my life. So that's why I love it too. Watching the Baxters, and at the very beginning, I don't want to give it away. There's a little situation with the one of the daughters and her husband that is reality.
Yeah.
It's reality of today, but how she addresses it and how she wants to address it versus how everyone's telling her what she should do is again real life.
Right. And that's the thing, I think it is just so important to me when I became a Christian or in a relationship with Jesus in my mid 20s, the things that I would hear people talking about at Bible study or between church services were much more difficult than the things I was sort of imagining to be Christian fiction or inspirational fiction. And so I wanted to make sure I was honest with that. And that meant that not everyone is seeking their faith. Not everyone even has faith in the books. Some
Right.
people are in the midst of something difficult that's happening, a conflict, and they actually are struggling. They are angry at God. They don't, if there even is a God, that's how they feel. So I
Right.
wanted to kind of, you have to take the whole smattering of humanity, the whole scope of humanity, and be able to find where is that character and what does God mean to that character. And so it doesn't come across preachy, it comes across very real. And I
Right.
was kind of say, Trey, I always say, when Jesus wanted to tell you something just very matter of factly, he would say, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Didn't
Right.
wonder what that was. It's very clear. If he
Right.
wanted to make a point, he would turn over a table. He was not beyond that. That would be, he had to make a point at times. But when he wanted to touch your heart, he told a story. And it wasn't like he was quoting verses. It wasn't like he was banging anyone on the head. He just had them lean in and listen to a story. And I'm sure the way it was told by Jesus, those stories had a lot of emotion, a lot of pointed moments where people could say, I see myself in that. And in that, then a beautiful truth comes in through the back door of the heart where people are least expecting it. And I
Right.
think that's the difference. That's the both the gift and the responsibility that I have as a believer telling stories is to make sure people leave changed, that they walk away saying, yeah, I'm going to pick up the phone and make things right with my mom or whatever the case may be.
One of the things that and I never thought that I would be a writer. I always, I don't know. I was studied journalism a little bit, but I just kind of got away from it. But what was really crazy is many, many years ago, I'm talking 20 something years ago, I had a folder and it said book ideas and it was empty. Like I literally had nothing. And then fast forward in 2007, when my 17-year-old was killed in a car accident, I immediately started journaling, so it was more of someone gave me a leather bound, just paper. That's it. Just a little book, just empty book. And I just started writing. I picked it up on my birthday, November 12th, 2007, which was exactly 4 months. He died on July 12th. My birthday was November 12th. And I picked it up and I wrote on my birthday. And it was just a little short little message to him, but it made me feel like I was talking to him
Yeah.
for the first time because I always would go to sleep thinking I was going to dream. I'd read stories about how moms would dream about their children. And I really got upset one day and I just cried out to God. And I said, I don't understand why you won't let me dream about my son. And
Mm.
just as clear as bell. I mean, just, not audible, but just a knowing. He said, I will not let him come to you in your dreams because all you'll want to do is sleep. And
Mm.
it was just as a matter of fact.
Wow.
And I was like, he doesn't trust me he knows me better than I know myself. And he knows that's all it would take for me to just want to stay asleep.
Right.
And so
Go the race.
when I wrote, I felt like I was actually communicating with him, which is all I really wanted to do in the dreams, right? And then fast forward 7 years later in 2014, I wrote my book, Wake Up Call, A Mother's Grief Journey. Yes, it started this whole path that I never in a million years dreamed would happen, from speaking to writing and to the podcast. I mean, I've been doing this for 8 years. I mean, all of these things that I was never in my wheelhouse of thoughts or desires, he used that pain to purpose. So I always tell, and then I have my counseling practice because I went on and got my certification in grief. And I tell my women, I call them my queens because my practice is Queen Bee Transformation Counseling. And I tell my queens journaling is the most healing. So I can just imagine writing this story. You see it and then you just write it out. How incredible healing of your own faith,
Yeah.
and walking in your own faith. Because I wanted to ask you about being called. I mean, you're literally being called America's favorite inspirational storyteller. What does that mean to you when somebody says that? How do you stay grounded in your purpose as a writer with all of that big success?
Well, it does two things. And, it must be said, that's just the hardest thing anyone could ever go through. And it's stories like that, hearing you talk about your son. It's stories like that that I would hear at church, like I said, between services or at Bible study. There was a woman whose daughter and husband went to meet one of her friends on the side of the road. He had a flat tire. Dad was going to change it for the friend of his daughter's. And in the middle of the day, a drunk driver veered off the road and hit him and killed him in front of the daughter. And it was one of those. And so she's in my Bible study, and it's like 2 years later, and she's just joyful. Like her eyes are just Jesus eyes, like just beautiful joy and peace. And I'm a new believer at that time. And I thought, how do you ever do, how are you even standing? Like, how are you doing this? And I got to talk with her and have coffee with her. And she shared about how she took a Bible to the prison where the drunk driver or repeat offender had been being held and gave him the Bible and forgave him. And, you look at like an Erica Kirk and that we are called to forgive. So how do you take that journey? That I wrote a book, not about her story, but about like a drunk driver involved in a family accident. And her husband's dying words were, tell Hannah to forgive, because he knew his wife would have trouble with that. And that's the last bit that is going to, it doesn't take till toward the end of the book that a police officer remembers those words and gets that information to her.
Right.
But it's called Waiting for Morning. So his mercies are new every morning. But
Right.
it's the waiting for morning that is sometimes the hardest part. And so, that's the detective of the emotions that I want to be, is to find the people who are still standing or the ones who aren't standing. Like let's tell their story too, that are still angry and still feeling like, God, you could have stopped it. So
Right.
how come? Why am I here? And the journey between that, from that point to he is not the reason for the bad things that happen. He is the rescue. And that is something I want to show. So when I see, oh, America's number one, whatever, 25 million books in print, when I see that sort of thing, I don't even own it at all. I think if I did, then I would lose my ability to connect with people and to share the hope of Jesus through storytelling that's complicated and hard to walk through and hopeful all at the same time. Um,
Right.
it's just Jesus. I mean, he's given me the stories. It's actually a great responsibility to keep
Right.
on saying, Lord, let this one be better than the last one for your glory.
Right. Oh gosh, I love that. And you're absolutely right, because I know that one of the things that I have just kind of been grounded in is I started this devotional series, and it's a coffee themed devotional series. So all of my books, and I'm going to send them to you, by the way. I don't know. I don't know if I want Karen Kingsbury to critique them, but I'm going to send them. They're just devotionals, but they're coffee themed, which I love coffee, and I start my mornings with Christ. And
Yeah.
so originally the first devotional was Coffee with Christ, and that's all it was going to be, but I had so much fun writing it because my goal was I want people to do what I do and start their day. Because if you don't set a precedence in the day,
Right.
with the word, it will determine how the rest of your day goes. And I
Right.
thought, well, then I'll have to do another one, Brew Blessings. And then I did another one, Cup of Grace. And so everything is coffee themed. And I had so much fun. I just did one with I call her my bonus granddaughter, because my daughter married a gentleman that had a 6-year-old little girl, and now she's 17. So we wrote one together for teen girls.
Okay.
Isn't
And
that
all
wonderful?
happened since your son went to heaven.
Yes.
Wow.
Oh no, Karen, I was a different person, and that's one thing when I started the podcast. It started with Facebook on Wednesdays. And to be fully transparent, I didn't want to do lights, camera, action at 7 o'clock every
Oh,
Wednesday.
yeah.
And I said, so how can I do this, and how can I talk and be able to reach those about Christ and what Christ has done in my life without having to put on my makeup? And
Yeah.
so podcasting was just like, oh, I can podcast 24 hours a day and
Right.
in air. And then here we are going into our 8th year. And
Right.
We're in 18 countries. And so it is just unbelievable. 200,000 plus women download this episode. And so far, we've been downloaded in 18 countries. And I'm like, what? How did this happen? Like, this
Right.
happened because I picked up a journal. 4 months is how I started. But it's really interesting because Bryant's story, with me being able to tell his story and who he was, yes, he was National Honor Society and first baseman and was all of these things. He was so much more to everybody in his school.
That is amazing. We have just behind us in our neighborhood a 15-year-old young man who truly, I mean, led 2 Bible studies, attended a third. Like you'd see him walking in the neighborhood with his Bible, heading
Wow.
off to another, and he, attended the public school just at the end of the street. But at that public school, there was a young life group, and he spearheaded that group. And you see these beautiful, basically revivals happening at college campuses and high schools that Gen Z is not settling for
Right.
what has been handed to them. They're going to find Jesus. They're going to find their way. They want to be baptized. They want to pray. They want to know him. And Chatham was like that, this young man. And anyway, he was riding his bike, hit it was an electric bike, so it was going faster. And he was a great, great kid on every level. Hit like a twig, jammed the tire. He flew off and hit a fire hydrant. And that was, too much trauma. Didn't
Mm.
make his dad's a heart surgeon. And anyway, I feel the things that have happened since then, the beautiful coming together of faith in this community.
Wow.
And every one of those students, every one of them is never going to forget Chathan or his faith. At
No.
his service, they handed out Bibles. That was what Chathan would have wanted. The last time he had spent time with his pastor, he had been in tears saying, I'm so concerned that there's people I love that won't be in heaven. That
Mm.
was his main drive. And now that's the only way to find him. The only way to find him again is you got to find Jesus. You got to be close to him because otherwise you won't see him again. So yeah, God, it's that Romans 8:28 that we don't want it to be this way, but it still is true that he does work all things to the good for those who love him. And what did he spare Bryant from? We don't know.
I don't know. Right.
Earth is so short. 100 years is so short. It feels so long in the hours, but
Right.
it's so short, really. And, I think that is a message in my new book, The Christmas Ring, and then also the movie that comes literally out on Thursday in theaters.
I know. I'm so excited. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about next is you have expanded into film, right? So now you have the Karen Kingsbury production. What has it been like to be able to take those written stories and then turn them to life on screen? Has it challenged your faith any, or has it just kind of grown and expanded your faith, you think?
It's the hardest thing I've ever done career-wise by far. Nothing is harder because you don't have control over it. Whereas if I sit in my rocking chair in the front porch, I can control every aspect of a story.
Yeah.
The only thing I can't control is whether I'm faithful to the deadline. But I'm getting faithful to the deadline. I'll get the book written. This many books later, whatever it is, 60 novels. I know how to write a book, and I'm thankful that the Lord's given me that. And I still want everyone to be better than the last one. But this time it was the movie first, and it is the most beautifully rewarding thing, Cherie, to just see a film on the screen. And that's why we're going theaters and only theaters. We don't have another plan for this Christmas. But it's such a beautiful movie, a love story that honors the military, and it talks about sacrifice, not just of the military, but also the sacrifice God made by sending his son, which is the point of Christmas, So we, to see the movie that really is the same one that God put on my heart. Like we have a Christian director who sees and understands that worldview and who can find the deeper performances from
Mm.
even the most talented actors. And the music written by Tyler Smith, who's Michael W. Smith's son, and you can feel the Holy Spirit moving in the music. The music holds your heart. And you're going to want that in a theater. So for me, yes, hardest thing I've ever done because I have no control. So all you can do is literally, Jesus, take the wheel the whole time. If Kelsey Grammer had had a headache and been out for an hour, we wouldn't have gotten it.
Ugh, crazy.
He came to us after his son's birthday. He had to be home for that in LA. And then he was leaving there was a hard out date of when he had to get to London to finish filming a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
And it was 3 days in between. He loved the script enough to come and play Howard Miller for us and the performances that we got, but had anything, anything gone wrong. Like I said, you know that if like a car hits a light pole and if our electricity goes off in the building that we're filming in, we're done. Like we don't have anything on either side. We had no budget to be able to bring them back out. So that's just one of hundreds of examples of things that could go wrong.
Yeah.
And as Tyler Russell, our director, would pray before every day.
Love
We'd
it.
have a safety meeting, and then with everybody circled up, he would invite the Lord to go before us to give us the images and the scenes and the shots that we needed, the emotion we were hoping to capture. And literally everything that could go right went right. Like
Yeah.
the Lord was with us the whole way. And honestly, it feels like a miracle. I really think at the end of the day, we can't take the credit for it because in March, we didn't even know we were doing a movie.
Yeah.
And it was after we wrote the script, Tyler and I wrote the script. And after that was when I said, you know what? I want more information. So I'm going to write a book. So I took 8 days and set aside and I said, I'm writing the book because it's too good. I need, you can get more detail.
Yeah.
So it's that rare time when my recommendation, like go see the movie this weekend,
Yeah.
because first of all, if we don't have people in the theaters this weekend, we'll lose it. They'll pull it out of the theaters and we want to stand strong. Like an independent film that gives glory to Jesus at Christmas time and shows you the most beautiful love story. Go see that. Like the Christmas
Absolutely.
story. It's just one of those moments that come together and let's in solidarity show Hollywood what we really want. And it's so high quality. Our costumer, our set deck people were so talented that honestly, I'm inviting, and everyone listening, just like be part of the miracle and
Yeah.
let's make a big impact and show Hollywood what we really want.
So the movie comes out on the 6th, right?
Yes,
And
this
starts
Thursday.
on the 6th. So I want to let the audience know I have bought 2 tickets. You would need to live in the Fort Myers, Cape Coral area for these 2 tickets. But I am giving those tickets away on the 6th, and the movie is for November 12th, which is my birthday. So it's my gift to someone on my birthday, these 2 tickets. I'm also buying 2 other tickets that can be used anywhere in the country. So in order to find out how you can win those tickets, you'll need to go to my Instagram, The Cherie Rickard Show, and you will know how you can win those tickets. It's a beautiful movie. I feel very honored to have been able to see the movie in advance. Thank you for that. It's just incredible. Everybody needs to see it. It's a beautiful story, beautiful. And I think it's just so fitting for not just Christmas, but for Thanksgiving as well, and coming out. And what a great thing to do during Thanksgiving. If you have family, you can take your family to the movies. You can all go together to see this beautiful film. It's wonderful. And I'm so appreciative that I got to see it. And you would think you worked on it for a couple of years, to be honest with you.
And that again is like that part where I say be part of the miracle because there's no logic in this. Like we wrapped on August 10th and we had a delivery, like a movie delivery date of October 6th. And so when you look at the difference, I think that's like 6, 7 weeks of time. People who are like industry moguls for 30 years are like, I'm sorry, but it's not possible.
Not possible.
It's possible for a streamer, it's possible for like a network, but it's not possible theatrically. And we did it. Like the Lord was literally, it's been a miracle. And I just keep thinking, what is the big thing that he's got for you, for the person who's thinking, should I go to the movies this weekend and go see this Christmas movie? Should I ring in Christmas, by seeing the Christmas ring? The answer is yes. Like let your heart, we need our hearts to sometimes have a reset as we head into the holidays. And
Yeah.
that's what this can do. It can give you that, even the military angle where every military member in uniform, every one of them, the men and women in this movie, they're all actually military, active and retired military. We didn't have to get a single costume because they wore their own. That was amazing. And, we had a World War II vet. He's a 102-year-old James Daniels, and he's making his theatrical debut this Thursday. Like, what in the world? That's
Gosh, I just love that.
Yeah, it was amazing.
You're never too old, right? You are never too old
Right.
to have a dream come true with this man in this movie. I mean, and how proud is his family?
Oh, they're so proud. But one of the things I'll never forget, Cherie, is just this whole holding area next to the Mule House in Columbia, Tennessee, which is where we filmed the big dance. next door is a small church, and in that church we had around 100 military background actors we were holding, and we wanted to give them good food. And I had a dream of bringing in entertainers, but it just was so fast. There was no way to get to that. Didn't need to, because when James Daniels walked in his dress blues, wearing the same uniform he wore as a 19-year-old at the Battle of the Bulge, like when he walked in, the men and women in that room who ranged in age from 18 to probably 70, they lined up to have the honor of shaking James Daniels' hand. And you could just see that they took pictures with him, but it was so reverent. Like they had so much respect for him. And now they can tell their kids, grandkids, it'll be passed on that, did you know that Papa actually held the hand and shook the hand of a World War II vet? And that was a part of the miracle of what happened. He was going to be background. If you speak in a movie, you become actually part of you're in the cast as opposed to
Right.
background actor. And Jana Kramer playing Vanessa Mayfield walks up to him in the scene that he's in, and she says, "Thank you for your service." I mean, it's so meta. Like she's holding his hand and shaking his hand, and he nods and he says, "You're welcome." And just like that, he became a cast member. So he actually has a speaking part. And so, it's we're honoring the military, we're honoring the message of Christmas, and it's done with such beauty. Did you notice like no bright reds and greens?
Yeah.
Like it's very much the golds and the
Yeah.
muted lights and the it feels old fashioned to that
Yeah.
end, which I
Yeah.
love.
It was wonderful, wonderfully done. I just want you, but I know we have to close. Aspiring writers and maybe dreamers, filmmakers that are listening today, what is the best advice that you can give about trusting God's timing and stepping boldly into your calling, if that's what you feel your calling is, especially when you think that everything is uncertain? There's budgets, there's all of these things. What is just some advice that you can give them?
Simplify the process and just find the quiet place with the Lord. The be still and know that I am God is such an important verse for creatives, because we can try to hustle our way to some sort of, moment or platform or accomplishment. And that is not what it's about. It just isn't. Like if God's going to open the door, he alone can open it. And even with this movie, we go into it, our second Karen Kingsbury production film, opening Thursday. If it does great, we'll make more. And if it doesn't, then I have to say, then that's, this was the last one you wanted us to make. And I have to have an open hand and open heart about that.
Mm.
I can't make it happen, and neither can they. So what they need to do is tell the story. So get the leather journal with the pages like you did when you started. Get the journal, pull up a page in your laptop, whichever way you best create. Find a quiet moment and ask God to give you the story. At the end of the day, whether it's a book, a podcast, a movie, then it's about the story. And that's what people are going to connect to. And only you can tell that story, the
Right.
one that's on your heart. If it's going to become a movie, like first tell the story, first write the script, people will say, how do I write a book? And I'll say, you write it.
Just start writing.
You know what I mean? You have to write it. Like if you actually, I can't give you a story, but I
Right.
can tell you, write it, write an outline. Then you have something. Now you have something to get better, and you can take it to someone who maybe edits, and you can say, what do you think? Or get into a group
Right.
where you look self-edit each other. And along the way, the Lord might show you that it isn't for you, but you'll never regret writing it. You'll never regret having something to share with your family.
No, I will never regret writing Wake Up Call, Mother's Grief Journey. And I know it touched people. That's when I had to get a separate Facebook because I couldn't handle all the messages on my inbox when the newspaper picked it up. So, I knew, but it was 7 years later.
Yeah.
So everything is in God's timing. It's not necessarily our timing, and we have to be patient. And like you said, trust the process and just start writing, because you never know when it's your time and you're already halfway there if you've been writing. The saying, when opportunity comes, it's too late to prepare. We should always be preparing
That's
for the
right.
opportunity and the desires of our heart.
And
So,
part of that is, going, like if you're a person who thinks you would like to make movies that will touch and change culture and be a part of, like, this movie can be a part of the revival going on. It can be a part of washing away the dust of the world, the division. You walk in strangers, you're going to walk out a community. That's why the theater is so important. So you can be a person who wants to make an impact, then see movies like The Christmas Ring this
Right.
weekend.
Right.
You'll be learning as you watch. Read the book. You'll be learning as you read. So your best classroom is to absorb yourself in the content that you would like to create, that kind of content. You know,
Right.
if it's mystery, then it's mystery or whatever. But if it's something that's going to change the culture and bring hope to people, then go see a movie like The Christmas Ring and pay attention to the details. And now you can have a higher bar for where you're going to create your own beautiful movie or beautiful book.
Right. And it's a very good, that's a good bar to set there, Karen.
All glory to God, because he has to make a way. I didn't, my first novel wasn't published till I was 34. So when you look at that, it's like my kids will sometimes, at 25 or 27, like, when is my big break going to happen in this area? And I just want to say there's no timeline it's God. So there's no like, I'm past my time now.
Yeah.
Look at James Daniels. He's becoming an actor at 102, right?
102. And yeah, and how old was Colonel Sanders when he started KFC? I think he was like 58 or 59 years old.
Exactly. I mean, the Lord, we have a set number of days in the story of our life. The question is, how are you going to make yours a bestseller? And for that, Jesus has to be the hero of the story.
Oh, I love that. Thank you, Karen. Tell everybody where we can find you and where is the best place to go to find the movie.
So I'm at KarenKingsbury.com, and right from the homepage, there's a link of how to get the movie, how to get the book, how to get tickets, but also any of your local theaters, your AMC's, Regal, Cinemark's, Fandango. It's listed everywhere. And again, it starts the 6th on Thursday. We'll have at least a week, but if that first weekend isn't just amazing, we may not stay, and we want to stay through Christmas. So that's going to be the prayer.
That's the prayer, and I'm praying for you. And I say, I declare that you're staying because only God made this movie. With every challenge that you went through, there is a reason, right? There's a method to all of the madness sometimes. And
Absolutely.
He doesn't create chaos, right? But
No.
He gets us through it when chaos
Yes.
surrounds us. So I feel in my heart it's going to be amazing. And I can't wait for us to find out.
Thank you. It's so fun. I agree. I mean, this is such an honor to be with you today, and
Thank
send
you.
me the books because I want to share some of those with my neighbor as well.
Oh, I will. I'm going to send them all to you. Thank you, Karen. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. You too.
I'm so glad you joined me today on the Cherie Rickard Show. If you want personal guidance, go to queenbeetransformation.com and just sign up for your free consultation. Don't forget my coffee-themed devotionals to start your day with God. And my new book, Help from Heaven, is on the way, launches this November. Keep trusting, keep rising, and remember, you're never alone.